Hello and welcome back to the series where I establish the definitive best livestock for a saltwater aquarium. Today it's the 5 best and 5 second best LPS corals, with Prestige Reef and I choosing 5 corals each before putting them to the public vote on our podcast to determine the winner. And while you're watching, you can tell me in the comment section below the like button if you agree that the correct coral for each category won. And we're going to kick things off with the big guns, torch corals. The competitors were 2 absolute bangers in the shape of the Holy Grail torch and the Australian Gold torch. And the winner with 61% of the vote was the Holy Grail. Now, Holy Grail torch is of course just a made up name and it gets applied to various colour morphs of torches, and if I was being cynical, I'd say that was often done simply to justify an inflated price tag. However, it is this particular strain that I'm talking about, with bright green and yellow tentacles. Now, being a torch coral, they're sometimes difficult to keep and of course can sting neighbours that get too close, but they have to be one of the most spectacular readily available corals in the hobby, so this was a fair winner. And while all torches can be delicate, that goes double for the runners-up. Aussie Gold torches probably have the worst survival rate of all torches, which is why I've always resisted buying one myself. They're expensive too, and losing a £300 coral in a matter of weeks isn't exactly my idea of fun. From Wavies to jigglies now, and Ryan and I set about establishing the definitive best Scolly. Now, if this was down to me, it would have been a battle between the 2 most common Scollies, the War Paint and the Bleeding Apple. But Ryan cheated and pulled out the uber expensive Master Scolly, which of course won, with admittedly a closer than expected 58% of the vote. Now, Masters are basically unobtainium for 99% of the hobby because of their rarity and 4-figure price tag. And there's no real definition of what counts as a master, so if you ask 10 people what counts as a Master Scolly, you will get 10 different answers. But as far as I'm concerned, if it looks so good you're scared to ask the price, it's probably a master. Now, while Bleeding Apples aren't exactly cheap, they are super bright and fleshy, and they are orders of magnitude more hardy than torch corals, so a much safer bet if you have a couple of hundred notes burning a hole in your pocket. Now, expensive corals are great, but for the top 3 we chose affordable options only, starting with the Watermelon Chalice against the Dragon Soul Favia. And the winner with a narrow 54% of the vote was the Dragon Soul. These corals have been grown in the hobby for many years now, so they're usually readily available, often for around £50 or $50, and you don't get many other corals this colourful for that kind of money. The Watermelon Chalice is a personal favourite of mine. I love its variety of pink and purple colours, its lime green rim and centres, and on top of that, mine has been as hardy as any of my LPS corals, having gone through various parameter swings and tank moves without batting an eyelid. You also get fantastic contrast if you put it next to a Raja Rampage, which is another Reef Dog favourite. The penultimate corals on the definitive LPS coral list was between 2 Leptos, the Jack-O-Lantern Leptos Ceres and the John Deere Leptos Straya. And winning with a massive 72% of the vote was the super bright Jack-O-Lantern. This is one of the brightest glowing corals in the hobby, it's easy to keep, it usually costs less than 30 or 40 reef tokens, and it even grows well in shaded areas. It's also not particularly aggressive, it grows in a nice encrusting pattern, and if you look up close, it also has beautiful streaks and contours. The John Deere Leptos Straya is a much fluffier encrusting coral, but equally as affordable and equally as easy to keep, while also not being especially aggressive and having the unusual combination of green and orangey yellow. And the final 2 corals on the list were the purple tip frogspawn and the super bright trumpet coral, with the frogspawn taking the win with 67% of the vote. It gives you colour contrast within a single coral, it glows nicely under blue LEDs, and it's been grown in the hobby for decades, which means it's readily available, hardy and cheap. It also plays nicely with hammer corals and other frog spawns, so it's a great candidate for a coral garden, and it's for all those reasons that this is one of the best choices for your first wavy LPS coral. Now, the runner-up has more jiggling motion than it does swaying, but this is more or less the brightest green coral in the hobby, and the toxic green trumpet coral glows like an absolute champ under blue LEDs. It's easy to keep, it grows really well, and best of all, you can buy it from my podcast co-host and all-round good bloke, Ryan at prestigereef.co.uk. Now, rounding this list down to just 10 corals was really difficult, and it meant that we had to leave out many corals that absolutely deserve a place on a top 10 list. So here are just a few others that we had shortlisted. There's the Cyphastra in either branching form like this Cyphastra decadia, or the encrusting form that comes in various colour morphs, including the ever popular red and blue Bizarro Cyphastra. There's the Iron Man Bernard Pora that really stands out in a crowd of stunning Bernard corals, and quite how we managed to make this list without gunnies is beyond me. You can take your pick in terms of colours, and there's basically every colour under the rainbow, but if there's a nicer gunny than the Amazeballs, I'm yet to see it. The easier to keep cousin to gunnies is of course Alveopora, and this particular blue and green Alve grows like crazy in my tank. Then there's the bright green and yellow Space Invader Pectinia, which is another hardy jiggly LPS coral that should be on everyone's shortlist, and bringing up the rear is Acans or Micromuso Lord Howensis to give them their proper name, which is a hobby staple that really should have had a place among the finalists. And frankly, I could be here all day listing various types of awesome species, colour morphs and strains of LPS, so share your favourites in the comment section below, and if you want more definitive best livestock videos, you can click here and here, of course after clicking the like and subscribe buttons.